So DJI is launching products, the FCC has extended a key waiver, and the Air 4 just showed up in a flight registry, but American buyers are still stuck watching from the outside. Plus, Insta360 is making moves. So let's jump in. I'm Joseph Blake, professional photographer, videographer, and someone who is really bad at parties unless you absolutely want to talk about chroma subsampling. So the FCC just gave itself away just a little bit, right? It extended the update access for covered foreign drones and routers because cutting those devices off for patches creates a bigger problem. DroneXL is reporting that the FCC's Office of Engineering and Technology has now extended its waiver for software and firmware updates on previously authorized foreign-made drones, UAS components, and consumer routers as a way to get access to those devices until at least January 1st of 2029, while also expanding the waiver to include not just Class 1 changes like bug fixes and security patches, but also Class 2 permissive changes when those updates are meant to reduce consumer harm. The earlier deadlines were much closer. Drones had been set to lose that waiver on January 1st, 2027, and routers were on March 1st of the same year. Now, this applies to products that were already authorized before they landed on the FCC covered list. So if a drone cleared authorization before December 22nd, 2025, it stays eligible for updates under this waiver until 29. Now, if it came after the cutoff, it does not get pulled back in. The same basic rule applies on the router side. The practical effect is pretty simple though. Millions of already deployed DJI drones, Autel drones, TP-Link routers can keep getting software support instead of aging into a less secure gray area. And the FCC is saying that out loud, even in its regulatory language. So what this does not do is reopen the US market for any new products from those companies. The covered list restrictions stay in place. New equipment authorizations are still blocked unless a company clears the conditional approval path tied to the National Security Review. Now, to be clear, this is not a rollback of the ban. It is a carve-out for the installed base already sitting in homes and businesses. There's a bigger signal buried inside the notice though. The Office of Engineering and Technology says that it plans to recommend that the full commission codify this waiver into its formal rules. And if that happens, update access for grandfathered hardware would become more durable than just a temporary administrative decision. But it would take a full rule-making process to unwind it. That tells you where the agency has landed in practice. It still wants the market closed to new covered products, but it also knows that cutting off firmware pipelines for devices that people already own that have already been approved is going to just lead to users with lower safety, higher cybersecurity outcomes over time. We're talking about drones. We're talking about routers. So this is one of those policy moves where the fine print says more than the headline. The ban stays put, but the FCC has effectively admitted that keeping existing devices patched is better than not. Next, DJI has stopped pretending that this one is hidden. The Osmo Pocket 4P is now the official name, and the dual lens design is no longer leak territory. DJI has confirmed that the Pocket 4P is going to be coming through a coordinated teaser post from its global and Japan X accounts, with both teasers showing a vertical dual camera setup on the gimbal head and one module clearly marked as 1 inch. That lines up with months of leaks and earlier FCC paperwork tied to model PP041, which on a pocket gimbal. The naming question also looks settled now. DJI is going to be calling this the 4P, not the 4 Pro. That may sound minor, but once DJI puts the product name in its own channels, that's usually the end of the debate. The teaser language points to a flexible focal length coverage which fits the reports that the camera pairs a 1-inch main sensor with a second telephoto lens, likely a 1/1.3-inch sensor. In practical use, that gives creators more framing options without having to move up to a larger camera system or punch in digitally when the quality can drop pretty dramatically. And the timing looks pretty close still. We're expecting a launch window late May of this month, maybe early June of this year. There's also the FCC confidentiality period attached to this product, which is going to run basically out in June, maybe June 20th, June 25th, unless DJI is able to extend it. And historically, companies often launch before that kind of paperwork lock expires. The harder part here is going to be US availability. Standard Osmo Pocket 4 launched back in April, didn't reach the US retail stream. The Pocket 4P appears to be an even tougher position because its certification date landed right on December 22nd, which puts it on the wrong side of the covered list. So even if this handheld vlogging camera isn't a drone, it still runs into the same broader FCC restrictions now affecting pretty much everything that is new from DJI in the United States. So at this point, the product itself is real, it's close. There's really not a whole lot of questions left about what it's going to be, but the real question is going to be whether or not DJI is going to bring it to the United States. Now, some of the products that have not been released through DJI official channels, like the DJI retail channel, can still be purchased in the United States. And they're still covered and allowed by the FCC. The question is whether or not DJI is selling them directly and how much you're going to pay for a third party that might be bringing it in to the States. But that's not just it for DJI. We've got another product launch. The hardware's real, it's shipping, and it's skipping the United States. And that's where we talk about the Osmo Mobile 8P. Details on the global launch for May 7th, so just a few days ago, with immediate availability through DJI store and retailers across Europe and other international markets, but no corresponding US release at all. The standout feature here is a detachable touchscreen remote called the Osmo FrameTap. Now that remote changes how this gimbal works in practice. It detaches magnetically from the handle and connects over Bluetooth and lets you control framing from up to 10 meters away. I reviewed two different gimbals on the channel from Hohem that do the exact same thing. They're pretty cool, they're fun to use. The screen mirrors the live camera feed, so you can tap subjects for tracking, and you don't have to walk back to your phone every time you want to adjust something. You have full control basically on this little Bluetooth remote. DJI is also expanding what the system can track. Active Track 8.0 for the 8P is built for more difficult scenes with faster movement and brief obstructions. With the multifunctional Module 2 attached, the tracking can now go beyond people and pets to include objects like cars and landmarks. The rest of the package pushes this a little further into creator tool territory rather than simply being a phone stabilizer. DJI says that its 8th generation 3-axis stabilizer with stronger motor power than the standard model is what we're going to be getting here. It's going to weigh 386 grams. It includes a built-in extension rod that stretches out to 215 millimeters, and it carries a tripod with a wider stance for better stability when you set it down. Battery life is rated up to 10 hours, but that figure is coming from a controlled split test with part of the time spent using the remote detached over Bluetooth and part of it attached while the gimbal stayed stationary. So in real world use, if you're using the tracking features consistently, you're using the fill light, maybe you're changing, or charging your phone rather, the gimbal's gonna cut down from 10 hours for sure. DJI also added several shooting modes aimed at social video creators like dynamic zoom, which handles push in or pull out effects with compressed perspective. You've also got slow shutter, that's gonna add long exposure style light trails for low light scenes, an action shot, which targets fast moving subjects. You've also got a widescreen option that gives you a native 2.3:1 framing without needing to crop later if you just want that full cinema crop. Pricing is going to start at 159 euros for the standard combo and go up to 189 euros for the advanced tracking bundle with the multifunctional Module 2, and it's going to reach 219 euros for the creator combo that adds audio gear like DJI's mic lineup. Mention euros, no American dollars here. Once again though, there is no US pricing because there is no US launch. So like other DJI products with wireless radios inside them, this gimbal runs straight into the FCC authorization limits tied to DJI's covered status. So if you're outside the US, this looks like a pretty clever upgrade in a category that usually moves kind of slowly. And if you're inside the US, it's another reminder that DJI's consumer launch calendar and American retail access are no longer moving together. Now, shifting gears, let's talk about Insta360 and Antigravity. They just pushed a big firmware update that says a lot about where consumer drones in general are going to be heading. The focus here is less on raw hardware and more on making flying easier and editing faster. Drone DJI is highlighting the Antigravity's big spring update for the A1 drone, which adds AI-assisted editing tools, voice control features, stronger automation, and upgraded safety systems as the company continues expanding into more markets, including Mexico, after an earlier launch in Thailand. The centerpiece on the creative side is an updated auto edit function. Antigravity says that auto edit now does a better job understanding what users are trying to capture. And that's going to translate into a smarter shot, better selection, smoother camera movement choices inside the finished edit, and AI generated sound effects layered into clips meant for quick sharing. There's also a new time-lapse mode aimed at exactly the kind of footage that people tend to post right away. Sunsets, skylines, changing light. Those kinds of scenes fit naturally here because they turn ordinary flights that are sometimes kind of slow into a more cinematic view without a whole lot of extra work from the pilot. And on the control side, Antigravity has added a voice assistant, so users can actually trigger functions like Sky Genie, Deep Track, and Return to Home with just spoken commands instead of digging through controls manually. Well, we don't know if someone can just run by you and say, "Return to home," and then your drone, it screws up your shot. For beginners especially, that's going to lower friction though pretty quickly. Safety is also getting some attention in this update. The A1 now has an upgraded omnidirectional obstacle avoidance system built around 360-degree sensing included in its existing vision system. So in plain terms, it should do a better job of detecting obstacles early and navigating around them more smoothly during flight. The update's also going to expand the virtual cockpit system with a third-person flight view built around a virtual avatar, while SkyPath gets new path styles and markers designed to make pre-planned flights feel more dynamic on screen. Taken together, this looks like a software-first push in a market where companies are increasingly competing on your user experience as much as they are on airframe design and camera quality. And that trend is starting to feel pretty clear. Consumer drone makers are trying to remove friction everywhere they can, from flying to editing to sharing right after landing. But on the hardware side, Insta360 also has some updates, and it sounds like they're pushing pretty ambitiously into the small camera market, more so than they already are, and finding yet another market segment that they can compete with DJI. So we've got an early first look at the Luna 360 or the Insta360 Luna, which is co-engineered with Leica. We've got beta testing that points to several creator-focused features like 10-bit log recording, multiple focal lengths through a dual camera setup, that sounds familiar, and strong low-light performance from a 1-inch sensor, also familiar, paired with an f1.8 aperture and a very capable image stabilization system built around a physical gimbal. Now, in a camera this small, 10-bit log opens up a bit more room for color work after capture. And early testing is describing the footage as having roughly 14 stops of dynamic range, which is also claimed by Insta360, along with fairly flat files that stay workable in grading without heavy baked-in sharpening getting in the way. So you're gonna have a little bit more latitude to work with some of this footage. Now, the dual camera design also broadens how you can shoot with something like this pocketable camera. We've got multiple focal lengths, which means that you're not locked into one all day. You can go wider when the space gets tight, or switch perspectives when you want some separation or background compression. Now, low light performance sounds promising as well. A 1-inch sensor still sits well below the larger interchangeable lens systems like Micro Four Thirds and larger, but inside a compact body gives you more room to hold image quality together once the light drops off around sunset or when you're indoors. There's also an audio angle here beyond the camera itself. Insta360, which we knew was going to be getting into more accessories, appears to be readying their wireless mic with an e-ink display and a 3-mic array that's going to connect directly to cameras like the Luna. Early use has described clean audio across different environments along with magnetic mounting for fast setup. Then there's the stabilization itself. Even in beta, early hands-on testing is describing a very strong gimbal performance when walking handheld and even when using longer focal lengths, though we don't know exactly what those focal lengths are going to be. But anybody who's shot with longer focal lengths, you know that that's when shake becomes super obvious. So good to see that they're keeping that in check. Not sure how much distortion there might be there. We'll see. It's still in beta. Now, this needs final firmware before anyone can treat the performance as fully locked in. But based on what's actually surfaced so far, Luna looks aimed squarely at creators who want pocket size without giving up too much control over image or sound. But speaking of the gear that we use, I get a lot of questions about gear, so I keep a full list below. It covers the cameras, the lenses, the audio, and the accessories that I actually use, both here in the studio and out in the field. It's not just a wish list. Now, those links are affiliate links, meaning that the channel does earn a small commission, but there's no extra cost to you. So if you're curious about what I'm shooting with, or you want to dig into my setup, that's the easiest place to find everything in one spot. Now, one more story before we go, because this is exactly the kind of information that tends to mean that development has moved past casual prototype sightings. The DJI Air 4 has just showed up somewhere much more interesting than the factory. Now, famed leaker Igor Bogdanov, our good friend, has posted a screenshot from a Chinese drone flight reporting app showing a DJI Air 4 listed in a drop-down menu alongside shipping aircraft like the Air 3S and the Insta360 Antigravity A1. That's all inside this app's consumer imaging category. That makes this different from earlier battery photos or crashed prototype images. A registry-style appearance suggests that the model name has made its way into production and compliance software used by pilots filing flights under China's UAV rules. Now, that doesn't give us a launch date or specs or pricing, but it does show that the Air 4 exists inside operational systems rather than just leaked hardware scraps. The placement inside that list is interesting too, because it puts the Air 4 directly among established consumer imaging drones rather than some placeholder test environment where we can't verify context. There are still limits though on what we can conclude from the screenshot alone. It doesn't confirm when DJI plans to launch it in China or anywhere else. It simply shows that the Air 4 is a product label and it's moved further down the pipeline than many leaks we've seen recently. For US buyers, none of this answers any questions because availability is going to be zero. There still hasn't been any flagged FCC equipment authorization filing for the Air 4 in public, leaks, or tracking tied to the story. We did see the Mavic 5 in the quote-unquote list of approved items that wouldn't be on the covered list, but not the Air 4 that I could tell. What it does tell us is that the next few products are progressing through Chinese systems. So it's real progress in terms of evidence, but not in terms of timing or really any other information. It looks closer than it did before, but the path to the US especially, it's unresolved. And that's gonna be it for me today. If you wanna support what I'm doing here, I've got everything down below, super chats, memberships, gifts, all that sort of stuff. But I've also got links to everywhere that you can follow. Find me everywhere. I've also got links to all the gear that I talk about and all of the gear that I use. Those links go to help the channel. But as always, the easiest way to support the channel is just to like, subscribe, comment, and share. Those are always free and they go a very long way to helping me grow here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.